Right now, Amnesty International is calling for SAPS to be held accountable for failing to safeguard South Africans. That's in response, of course, to the latest crime statistics. Let's discuss this with Marike Keller from Amnesty International. Thank you very much for joining us on eNCA. Now, of course, the mandate of the police is to make sure that people remain safe. But the second 3 months, or rather the third month to the 6th month of this year has been horrific in South Africa.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for having me, Masego. Hearing about the crime stats yesterday was absolutely shocking, and we're deeply, deeply concerned at the rising crime levels across the country. And while we do understand Minister Keller's reasoning that we can't compare it necessarily to the same quarter from the previous year, the fact remains that even during hard lockdown, people were victims of crime. And for a number of reasons, given lockdown, we're most likely not able to report it. So we can't compare it to the previous year necessarily, but at the same time, we do need to also consider the fact that crime has been steadily increasing over many years. So even if we don't compare it to the quarter from the previous financial year, we do need to also look at the previous years and see that compared to 2019, 2020, there definitely is still an increase in crime. And having the Ministry of Police say more needs to be done is not enough. What is actually being done to ensure that crime is on the decrease and to ensure that South Africa is a safe place for everyone who lives here?
And listening to what the unions, the police unions, have been saying in terms of budget constraints, the fact that the budget for police has been cut down by 11.3 billion rand, for instance, this year alone, they blame that as well, and not being able to, for instance, hire more police. What's your reaction to that?
So, I mean, that is also deeply concerning. The fact that so much money is being siphoned off from a ministry that is crucial to ensure the safety and security of everyone in the country. But at the same time, that the money was there before, and what was being done at the same time. So yes, the money that's being cut is very, very concerning, and I think that's something that the government or Treasury needs to reconsider. But at the same time, they've had the opportunity in the past as well to implement programs. There's a level of impunity that happens across the board, which contributes towards the rise in crime as well. And the fact that there are a number of failings within the South African police service, aside from the lack of budget, that severely impact the investigative phase, which also contributes towards the attrition within the criminal justice system, and justice being done at the end of the day.
Now, talking about funds, there's also that corruption within the SAPS, for instance, that's also, contributing to the lack of funds in some cases, and, contributing also to the crime that happens in South Africa. For instance, eNCA had an exclusive that showed that police at the Norwood police station, for instance, were actually giving criminals guns that they were not supposed to have.
No, absolutely. And to hide behind the reason that there are only budget cuts and that's why they can't do their job properly, that's not good enough. There are a number of reasons, like the one that you've mentioned now, that contribute towards their failings, and it needs to be looked at across the board. So the reason or the excuse are budget cuts, yes, while very, very serious, that's also, like I said, that's not enough. They do need to investigate any kind of cases of corruption. And IPID needs to step into that role as well, and ensure that the police officers who have been corrupt are held accountable to their actions as well.
Looking at the fact that crime is also something that the community or South Africans have to also, contribute to the fight against crime, it's not only police, right, that we can blame for the crime that takes place in the country.
No, absolutely. It's a multifaceted approach. Everyone has a responsibility to ensure that crime is on the decrease. So it's, I mean, if we look at gender-based violence, for example, that a lot of cultural and societal norms feed into that as well, and that's just one example. So we do need a multifaceted approach, and I believe that is, for example, with the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence, where there are a number of government departments that are contributing towards that, the civil society organizations, to work towards attitude and behavioral change, to support victims of violence in that sense as well. So it's not just the police, definitely, everyone has a responsibility, but when there is a crime that's committed, it's the police's responsibility to ensure swift and thorough investigations, and to make sure that doesn't fall through the cracks, and that it is then sent on to the National Prosecuting Authority for prosecution.